Imagine you walk up to a hostess stand at a restaurant and she looks at you and you look at her and you notice that she's on the phone. So you wait. She gets off the phone and continues to look down at the computer. And you stand there looking around, waiting patiently for her to look up again to let her know that you have a reservation. She gives you no motion to let you know she'll be with you in a minute and no eye contact after her call was concluded. So you stand there waiting for her or for someone else to acknowledge your presence. So, what's your first impression? What does this experience tell you about the culture of the organization? And what might this tell you about her training? Well, at this point, I'm sure you're thinking about your own experiences where a visit to a restaurant left a bad taste in your mouth, right? And if the company espoused that they were a customer-centric organization, there was clearly a breakdown from what they say and how it's demonstrated in everyday interactions. I mean, breakdowns are going to happen, right? But as your business grows, as it expands, and as it merges, it's more important than ever to actively and intentionally focus on the company's culture, particularly if you want outcomes to align with your company's contribution in the world, your vision, the mission, and the values. So here are some thought-provoking questions to ask yourself to explore how well your company's culture is demonstrated in everyday operations. The first one, what's your company's contribution in the world? Now, you might have a vision, you might have a mission or values, but do you know your company's contribution in the world, the outcome of your products and services? Today's consumer is looking to do business with brands that have a broader impact. So what are the outcomes of your products and services? Do you communicate the contribution in every process of your organization, like interviewing, your onboarding process, even your team meetings, to give a meaningful context from which you create those ideas, those products, and those services? Number two is team training happening at all levels in the organization, and is it a priority? Training is not a set it and forget it task. Now, remember, you have both internal and external customers, and everyone needs to know how their role impacts customers inside and outside of your organization. So integrating training, though, can be a lot easier than you think. It can be as simple as setting a time on your monthly team meeting agenda to review one company standard and the specific behaviors the employees are expected to deliver that's consistent with that vision, the values, or the culture. Now, this would have been helpful training, right, in the scenario that I described. So think of, a small gesture that immediately acknowledges the customer, or a simple "I'll be with you in one moment" would have gone a long way in the customer experience that I described earlier. Number three, are you intentionally celebrating wins? So are you going on to the next thing and the next thing without smelling the roses, right? So stop and smell the roses, rather. So when you notice a team member that is performing well, acknowledge and recognize it. And if one of your values is excellence, tie it into that excellence value and use the training time to reinforce what excellence looks like, while acknowledging that best practice. Number four, are you modeling your standards? Treat your team the way you want them to treat the customer. So ask yourself if you're modeling the very behavior that you want to see. Number five, what's your customer feedback process? The most valuable feedback comes from your internal customers, your employees, and your external customers. And while it's important to solicit feedback, it's equally important to take consistent action on that feedback. And there's nothing more draining than to ask your employees for their opinion and do nothing to address it. So establish some accountability processes to ensure that action is taken consistently to address their feedback. And number six, have you empowered your team? If so, what does empowerment look like? So what are the possible options that are available to your team when working with the customer? So when they experience, customer service issue, they know what options or parameters are available to them to satisfy the customer, and they can help that customer on the spot. It's also important to role play with them while they're being trained. Why? So that they recognize the scenarios when they happen. So as your business grows, so is your need to get things done with and through the team. And a created culture and ongoing processes and training that support that culture is key to continued and sustainable growth. I'm Lisa Minnini. Until next week, create a great life. Bye now.